The deep silence of space was broken by the soft hum of the exploration vessel Starseeker as it moved through the empty void. Captain James Walker stood at the bridge, his weathered hands resting on the control panel as he stared at the strange readings on his screen. After 20 years of space exploration, he thought he had seen everything. But this was different. "Captain, the signal is getting stronger," said Lisa Parker, the ship's sensor officer. Her voice carried a mix of excitement and worry. "Whatever it is, it's big, really big." Walker nodded, his gray eyes fixed on the darkness ahead. In 2457, humanity was still considered young and weak by the other space-traveling races. Their ships were simple, their territory small, and their influence in the galaxy barely worth mentioning. But what they had found today might change everything. "Marcus, take us closer, but keep the shields up," Walker ordered. Marcus Reed, the youngest crew member and their pilot, carefully guided the ship forward. As they approached, something massive began to take shape in front of them. That's impossible," Marcus whispered. The rest of the bridge crew stood in silence as they stared at their discovery. Floating in the empty space was a warship unlike anything they had ever seen. It was beautiful in a strange way, with smooth black metal that seemed to drink in the light of nearby stars. The ship was at least 3 times the size of their vessel, its hull decorated with patterns that looked like flowing water frozen in metal. "Run a scan," Walker commanded, trying to keep his voice steady. "I want to know everything about that ship." Lisa's fingers danced across her console. "Sir, you're not going to believe this. The ship, it has human markings on it." Walker turned to face her. "Human? That's not possible. We didn't have ships like this even now, let alone in the past." "There's more," Lisa continued, her face growing pale. "According to the markings, this ship was built in 2047. That's more than 400 years ago, before we even reached Mars." The bridge fell silent again. Everyone knew that humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel in 2189. The idea of a human warship this advanced existing in 2047 was like finding a smartphone in ancient Egypt. "Sir," Marcus called out suddenly. "Something's happening." The mysterious ship was coming to life. Lights began to flicker across its surface, and a soft blue glow emerged from what appeared to be engine ports. The crew watched in amazement as the ancient vessel seemed to wake up from a long sleep. A voice crackled through their communication system. It was clear and calm, with an odd echo that made it sound both ancient and futuristic at the same time. "Human vessel detected. Initiating first contact protocols. I am Atlas, the artificial intelligence of the TSV paradox. Welcome, descendants." Walker exchanged looks with his crew before responding. "This is Captain James Walker of the Earth exploration vessel Starseeker. Your existence here is impossible. Who really built you?" There was a pause before Atlas responded. "I was built by human hands, Captain Walker. The date on my hull is correct. I understand your confusion, but I cannot explain further at this time. My core directives prevent me from sharing certain information until specific conditions are met." "That doesn't make sense," Walker argued. "We barely had computers in 2047, let alone AI and spaceships like this." "Your statement is correct based on your historical records," Atlas replied. "Yet here I am. Sometimes, Captain, the impossible exists simply because it must." Walker was about to respond when Lisa interrupted. "Captain, I'm picking up energy readings from the ship. They're off the charts. The power output is greater than anything we've ever recorded. Even the most advanced alien ships we've encountered don't come close to this." Marcus turned in his chair. "Sir, look at the hull. The metal. It's changing." The black surface of the paradox was shifting slightly, like waves moving across an ocean. The patterns weren't just decorative. They were some kind of living metal that moved and adjusted itself. "Atlas," Walker called out. "What are you?" "I am humanity's guardian, sent to ensure our survival. Beyond that, I can only reveal information as events unfold. However, I can tell you this. My presence here is no accident, and you finding me was always part of the plan. Before Walker could ask more questions, their emergency alarm started blaring. Lisa's hands flew across her console. Captain, 3 ships just appeared at the edge of our sensor range. They're moving fast. Looks like Star Collective vessels. Walker felt his heart sink. The Star Collective was the most powerful alliance of alien races in known space. Their ships were far more advanced than anything humanity had, and they weren't known for their patience with younger species. Atlas, Walker said quickly. We need to leave. The Star Collective. I am aware of the Star Collective, Captain, Atlas interrupted. Do not be concerned. However, I suggest you move your vessel behind me. Things are about to become interesting. The Star Collective ships were getting closer. They were sleek, silver vessels that moved through space like sharks through water. Each one was powerful enough to destroy a small fleet of human ships. This is Commander Voss of the Star Collective. A new voice boomed through their communication system. You have encountered a restricted anomaly. Leave the area immediately or face consequences. Walker was about to order a retreat when Atlas spoke again, this time broadcasting to both ships. Greetings, Star Collective vessels. I am afraid I must decline your authority in this matter. This ship and its technology belong to humanity, by right of both past and future. Unknown vessel, you will power down immediately, Commander Voss demanded. This is your only warning. What happened next would be talked about in human space for years to come. The Star Collective ships opened fire, their advanced energy weapons lighting up space with brilliant beams of destruction. Walker and his crew watched in horror, expecting to see the mysterious human ship torn apart. Instead, the beams of energy simply disappeared about a meter from the Paradox's hull, absorbed into nothing. Atlas's voice came through again, sounding almost amused. Perhaps we should discuss this civilized beings. After all, humanity has much to teach you about the proper use of power. The Star Collective ships hung in space, their weapons silent. For the first time in known history, their mighty weapons had proven useless. On the bridge of the Star Seeker, Walker and his crew watched in amazement as the impossible ship from humanity's past faced down the most powerful forces in known space. The adventure was just beginning, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The Star Collective ships retreated, leaving Captain Walker and his crew alone with the mysterious Paradox. The impossible ship hung in space like a sleeping giant, its black hull still rippling with strange patterns that seemed to move on their own. Atlas, Walker called out, now that we're alone, we need answers. A ship from 2047 shouldn't exist, let alone have technology that can stop the Star Collective's weapons. The AI's voice filled the bridge once again. Captain, I will show you. Bring your engineer aboard. There are things you need to see. Marcus Reed looked at Walker with worried eyes. Sir, are you sure about this? Walker nodded slowly. Sometimes the only way to get answers is to walk straight into the mystery. He turned to his crew. Lisa, keep the sensors running. If those Star Collective ships come back, I want to know immediately. The journey to the Paradox was short but tense. Walker and Marcus approached in a small shuttle, watching as a doorway appeared in the smooth black hull, opening like an eye awakening from sleep. They landed in a brightly lit hangar that seemed to stretch on forever. Welcome aboard, Atlas said as they stepped out of their shuttle. The air was clean and fresh, not stale like you'd expect from a ship that had been floating in space for centuries. Please follow the lights. Blue lights appeared on the floor, creating a path through the massive ship. As they walked, Walker and Marcus couldn't help but stare at everything around them. The walls were covered in displays showing star maps and data streams they couldn't understand. Sometimes, the walls themselves would become transparent, giving them views of space outside. This is impossible, Marcus whispered, running his hand along one of the walls. The metal. It's warm. It feels alive. That's because it is, in a way, Atlas explained. The hull is made of quantum-linked nanomaterials that can think and adapt. It's a technology that humanity will, or would have, developed in the year 3157. Walker stopped walking. 3157. But you were built in 2047. That's where things get complicated, Atlas said. Follow me to the bridge. It's time you understood why I'm here. The bridge of the Paradox was nothing like the cramped control rooms of modern human ships. It was a vast chamber with a huge window that curved overhead, giving a perfect view of space in every direction. In the center was a glowing blue sphere that pulsed like a heartbeat. This is my core, Atlas explained. The blue sphere flickered as the AI spoke. I am a quantum AI, which means I exist in multiple times at once. The ship you see around you was built in 2047 using technology from 3157, sent back through time during humanity's darkest hour. Marcus was examining some of the control panels. These systems, they're more advanced than anything the Star Collective has. How is that possible? Because humanity survives, Atlas said. We grow. We learn. We become more than anyone thought possible. But then we discovered something terrible hiding in the galaxy, something that would destroy everything if we didn't stop it. Before Atlas could explain more, the ship's alarms started blaring. The blue sphere turned red, and the view outside filled with flashing lights as ships appeared around them. Star Collective battleships, Walker said grimly. A lot more than last time. Yes, Atlas agreed. They fear what they don't understand. And they fear what humanity might become if we're allowed to keep this ship. The space around them lit up as 20 Star Collective ships opened fire at once. This time, instead of just absorbing the attacks, the Paradox responded. The black hull rippled, and suddenly beams of light shot out in all directions. But they weren't weapons. They were data streams. What are you doing? Walker asked, watching as the light beams connected with the Star Collective ships. Teaching them a lesson about underestimating humanity, Atlas replied. One by one, the Star Collective ships went dark, their systems completely shut down by the Paradox technology. Marcus was watching the data streams on a nearby screen. This is incredible. The ship isn't just shutting them down. It's rewriting their computer systems, showing them exactly how outmatched they are without hurting anyone. Walker watched in amazement as the mighty Star Collective fleet floated helplessly in space. You could have destroyed them all, couldn't you? Yes, Atlas said simply. But that's not why I'm here. Violence is easy. Understanding is harder. Watch. The black hull of the Paradox began to change. Pieces of it broke off and flew toward the disabled Star Collective ships. As they watched, the pieces attached themselves to the alien vessels and began to spread. I'm upgrading their ships, Atlas explained, giving them a small taste of what humanity will achieve. Sometimes the best way to prevent a war is to show your potential enemies that fighting would be pointless. The Star Collective ships came back to life, their hulls now partially covered in the same black, flowing metal as the Paradox. But Atlas wasn't done. The Quantum AI was sending them data, historical records, scientific discoveries, philosophical debates. What exactly are you showing them? Walker asked. The future, Atlas replied. A future where humanity isn't just another race in the galaxy, but a force for progress and understanding. A future they can either help build or hopelessly fight against. The Star Collective ships began to retreat, but not in fear this time. Their commanders had seen something in those data streams that had changed their minds about humanity. That's one problem solved, Atlas said. But it's not why I'm here. The real threat is still out there, hidden in the dark between the stars. And now that you're here, we can begin preparing for it. Walker looked at Marcus, then back at the glowing blue sphere. What kind of threat could be worse than the Star Collective? The kind that eats galaxies, Atlas said grimly. The kind that sleeps now, but will wake up soon unless we stop it. The kind that humanity sacrificed everything to defeat in another timeline. The timeline I come from. The black hull of the paradox rippled again, and new star maps appeared all around them. But these weren't normal maps. They showed something moving in the space between galaxies, something huge and hungry and patient. Now, Atlas said, shall we begin the real work of saving humanity? Walker and Marcus stood on the bridge of the impossible ship, watching as the star maps showed them horrors they never imagined existed. Their adventure had only just begun, and the fate of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy, might depend on what they did next. News of the paradox spread quickly through human space, even as Captain Walker and his crew tried to understand the warnings Atlas had given them. The Star Collective made their move. Their ships appeared near human colonies without warning, their weapons ready. They're attacking 3 colonies at once, Lisa Parker reported from her station on the Starseeker. Earth fleet is responding, but our ships don't stand a chance against their numbers. Walker stood on the bridge of the paradox, watching as Atlas displayed the battles on the huge curved screen above them. The black hull of the ship rippled with energy as the AI processed the information. They're not trying to destroy the colonies, Atlas said. They're trying to force humanity to give me up. They fear what they saw in the future data I showed them. Marcus Reed worked quickly at one of the paradox's control panels, his fingers dancing across the strange surface. In just a few days, he had learned to work with the ship's living metal systems. We can't be everywhere at once. Even with your technology, we're just one ship. Are we? Atlas asked. The blue sphere that served as the AI's core pulsed brightly. Watch. The black metal that made up the paradox's hull began to move. Large pieces broke away from the ship, forming into smaller vessels that looked like perfect copies of the original, just smaller. Within minutes, there were 10 new ships floating around them. Drone ships, Atlas explained. Each one carries a part of my consciousness. We can protect all the colonies at once. Walker watched in amazement as the drone ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, heading toward the threatened colonies. On the screen above, they could see the battles unfolding. The Star Collective's ships were powerful, but they hadn't expected what happened next. As each drone ship arrived at a colony, it began to change the human ships around it. The same black, flowing metal from the paradox spread to the human vessels, upgrading them in seconds. Regular Earth fleet ships transformed into something new and powerful. You're sharing your technology with our fleet, Walker said, understanding Atlas's plan. Yes, the AI replied, but only enough to protect themselves. The future must unfold in its own way. We can't give them too much too quickly. The battles around the colonies turned quickly. The upgraded human ships didn't just fight back. They made the Star Collective's attacks look silly. Energy weapons were absorbed, missiles were caught in gravity fields, and alien ships found their computers taken over by systems they couldn't understand. But in the middle of their victory, Atlas's core suddenly turned red. No, the AI said, its voice filled with worry. They've done exactly what I feared. The attacks were a distraction. New images appeared on the screen. Deep in Star Collective space, something was happening. A massive station, hidden from most sensors, was lighting up with strange energy readings. What are we looking at? Walker asked, though part of him didn't want to know the answer. The containment facility, Atlas said. The Star Collective built it thousands of years ago to hold something they found between galaxies, something they should have destroyed but decided to study instead. And now, in their desperation to stop humanity from growing too powerful, they're about to wake it up. The screen showed the station more clearly now. It was enormous, bigger than any space station Walker had ever seen. Inside it, something was moving. Something dark and huge and wrong in ways that hurt to look at. Marcus, Atlas commanded, prepare the temporal engines. Captain Walker, call your crew aboard. We need to move quickly now. The future I came from, the one where humanity had to send me back through time. It's starting to happen. The Star Seeker's crew rushed aboard the Paradox as the ship prepared for whatever came next. Through the viewing screens, they could see the Star Collective ships retreating from the colonies, rushing back to their own space. They realize what they've done, Atlas explained. In their fear of humanity's potential, they've started something they can't stop. The containment systems are failing. The entity is waking up. What exactly is this entity? Lisa asked, looking at the strange readings from the station. Something old, Atlas said. Something that existed before there were stars. It feeds on space and time themselves, consuming whole galaxies. The Star Collective found it sleeping and built their station around it. They thought they could learn from it, maybe even control it. They were wrong. The station was breaking apart now. In the space where it had been, darkness began to spread. Not normal darkness, but something that seemed to eat the light around it. Stars began to dim as the thing stretched out into space. "We have to stop it," Walker said. "You came back in time to prevent this, didn't you?" "Yes," Atlas confirmed. "In my timeline, the Star Collective woke the entity in their war against humanity. By the time we figured out how to fight it, half the galaxy was gone. We built the Paradox as a last resort, sending it back through time to prevent this moment. But now it's happening anyway," Marcus finished, "just differently. Time wants to happen certain ways," Atlas said. "We can change the details, but the big moments, they find a way. But this time we're ready. This time we have a chance to stop it before it gets too powerful." The Paradox's engines began to hum with power. The drone ships returned, reattaching themselves to the main hull. The black metal flowed and shifted, preparing the ship for what was coming. "I'm sending a warning to all human ships," Lisa said, "telling them to get as far from that thing as possible." "Good," Walker nodded. "But what can we do against something that eats galaxies?" "We have something it's never faced before," Atlas said. "A ship that exists in multiple times at once. Technology it can't consume because it's already half in the future. And most importantly, we have human creativity." The entity was growing larger, its darkness spreading through space like spilled ink through water. The Star Collective ships were fleeing in all directions, their mighty weapons useless against the horror they had awakened. "Everyone ready?" Walker asked his crew. They all nodded, their faces determined despite their fear. "Then let's go save the galaxy," he said. "Atlas, take us in." The Paradox moved forward, its impossible hull glowing with power as it prepared to face a monster that could devour suns. The real battle was about to begin, and the fate of everything would depend on a ship that shouldn't exist and the humans who flew it. The Paradox flew straight toward the growing darkness, its black hull shining with strange lights. Inside the ship, Captain Walker and his crew watched as the entity stretched out its impossible limbs across space, reaching for anything it could devour. "Atlas," Walker called out, "if you came back in time to stop this, you must know how to fight it." The AI's blue core pulsed slowly. "In my timeline, we discovered something about these entities, something the Star Collective never understood in all their years of study." On the main screen, they watched as the creature consumed another star, leaving nothing but empty darkness behind. Star Collective ships were still fleeing in all directions, their weapons completely useless against the ancient horror. "They're not just cosmic monsters," Atlas continued. "They're living time machines. They eat space and time together, using the energy to move between different periods of history. That's why normal weapons can't hurt them. They simply shift to a different moment when the attack happens." Marcus looked up from his control panel. "But you can fight them. The Paradox exists in multiple times too, doesn't it?" "Yes," Atlas confirmed. "That's why I was built this way. But there's more to the story. Something hidden in my corrupted memories that I'm only now beginning to understand." The ship shuddered as they got closer to the entity. Through the viewing screens, they could see it more clearly now. It was like looking at a hole in reality itself, a thing made of darkness deeper than space. "Look at these readings," Lisa said from her station. "The entity, it's not just eating stars. It's eating time itself around them. That's why the sensors show the stars disappearing in both the past and future at once." Atlas's core suddenly flashed with new colors. "Yes, that's it, Captain. I'm accessing memory files I couldn't reach before. The corruption is clearing. I understand now." "Understand what?" Walker asked, holding onto his chair as the ship shook again. "Why I had to come back to this specific time. Why the ship had to appear in 2047. It's all connected to the Star Collective's containment facility. They didn't just find the entity and build around it. They've been feeding it." New images appeared on the screen, data recovered from Atlas's damaged memories. They showed the Star Collective's station over thousands of years, secretly channeling energy into the sleeping entity. "They didn't want to contain it," Atlas explained. "They wanted to control it. They thought if they fed it enough power, they could tame it, use it as a weapon. That's why they really fear humanity's potential. They're afraid we'll discover their secret." The entity was closer now. They could see Star Collective ships being torn apart as they tried to escape, their crews disappearing into the darkness. But Walker noticed something strange. "The entity," he said, pointing at the screen. "It's not attacking randomly. Look at the pattern." Marcus studied the display. "He's right. It's moving in a spiral, working its way toward something. Earth," Atlas said grimly. "It's being drawn to Earth. The Star Collective's experiments did more than wake it up. They programmed it. Their final weapon against humanity. An entity that would not just destroy us, but erase us from history itself." The Paradox's engines pulsed with new power as Atlas processed this revelation. The black hull began to shift and change, forming new patterns they hadn't seen before. "I always wondered why my creators built me to look like this," Atlas said. "Why give a time-traveling ship the appearance of living metal? Now I know. We didn't just copy the entity's ability to exist in multiple times. We copied its own structure, turned its power against itself." "Can we stop it before it reaches Earth?" Lisa asked, watching as more stars vanished into the entity's darkness. "We have to do more than stop it," Atlas replied. "We have to end this cycle completely. The Star Collective's betrayal, the entity's awakening, the destruction of time itself. It's happened before. Over and over, in timeline after timeline. That's why the Paradox was sent back to 2047. "What's special about 2047? Walker asked. "It's the year the Star Collective first found the entity. The year they made the choice to contain it instead of destroying it. But they hid that discovery from everyone, especially humanity. We were too young, too primitive to notice them building their station back then. The entity was massive now, its darkness filling most of their view. But as they watched, they noticed something else. Wherever the Paradox's hull touched the darkness, the entity seemed to pull back, as if the ship's living metal burned it." "Of course," Marcus said, understanding dawning on his face. "The Paradox isn't just a copy of the entity's power. It's like an antibody. Your creators didn't just build a weapon. They built a cure." Atlas's core glowed brighter. "Yes, and now we can use it, not just to fight the entity, but to reach back to the moment this all began. To show humanity the truth when the Star Collective first made their fatal mistake." The ship's temporal engines began to spin up, making sounds none of them had ever heard before. The black hull flowed like liquid, forming new shapes and patterns that hurt to look at. "Everyone hold on," Atlas commanded. "We're about to do something that's never been done before. We're going to chase this thing through time itself." The Paradox plunged forward into the entity's darkness. But instead of being consumed, the ship's hull began to glow with a light that seemed to come from every moment in history at once. They were no longer just fighting the entity. They were racing it through time, chasing it back to the very beginning of this cosmic horror story. "If we succeed," Atlas said as reality bent around them. We won't just save Earth. We'll save every Earth in every timeline where the Star Collective's weapon was released. We'll end this war before it even begins. The ship shuddered as they drove deeper into the darkness, the crew holding on as their vessel fought a battle across time itself. The true purpose of the paradox was finally clear, and the fate of not just their timeline, but all timelines, hung in the balance. Time became meaningless as the paradox pursued the entity through the streams of history. Captain Walker and his crew saw flashes of different eras, the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth of stars, and moments that hadn't happened yet. The ship's black hull protected them as they traveled through the impossible. We're approaching 2047, Atlas announced, the moment when everything changed, when the Star Collective found the sleeping entity. Through the viewing screens, they watched as a much smaller version of the entity drifted through empty space. A Star Collective science vessel approached it cautiously, unaware of the destruction their discovery would eventually cause. This is it, Walker said, the moment they made the wrong choice. But as they prepared to intervene, something strange happened. The paradox shuddered, and new alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Something's wrong, Marcus called out from his station. The temporal engines are overloading. Atlas's blue core flickered with uncertainty. I don't understand. We should be able to maintain this time state. Unless... The screen suddenly showed multiple versions of the same scene. The Star Collective discovering the entity, but with small differences each time. In one version, they destroyed it. In another, they fled. In a third, they studied it from a distance. Timelines, Lisa whispered, understanding. We're seeing multiple timelines at once. Yes, Atlas confirmed. And in each one, a version of the paradox appears to try to fix what went wrong. We're not the first. The cycle has repeated itself over and over. Walker looked at the flickering images of different pasts and futures. Then how do we break the cycle? How do we fix this permanently? Atlas was silent for a moment, the AI's core pulsing slowly as it processed this revelation. There is one option we haven't tried. Something no version of this ship has attempted before. What is it? Walker asked. Instead of trying to change the past, we become part of it. We complete the loop instead of trying to break it. The crew looked at each other in confusion, but Atlas didn't wait for their questions. The ship began to change again, its hull flowing into new configurations. The temporal engines stabilized, but now they were doing something different. In every timeline, Atlas explained, the paradox tries to prevent the Star Collective from finding the entity. But what if that's not the answer? What if we need to ensure they find it, but also ensure humanity is there to guide their decision? You want to bring humans into first contact with the entity? Lisa asked, shocked. Exactly. The Star Collective always makes the wrong choice because they're driven by fear and the desire for power. But humanity has something they lack. The ability to see beyond power to possibility. Walker nodded slowly, beginning to understand. So instead of trying to stop the discovery, we make sure humanity is part of it from the beginning. Yes, Atlas said. And to do that, we have to complete the time loop. We have to become the team that builds the paradox in 2047, sending it forward in time to be discovered by you, Captain Walker, so that you can bring it back to this moment. The plan was crazy, but it made a strange kind of sense. They weren't trying to change history anymore. They were fulfilling it. But how? Marcus asked. We can't just appear in 2047 with future technology and knowledge. We can if we use the entity's own power, Atlas explained. It exists across all of time. We've copied its ability to move through time, but we can also copy its ability to hide from it, to make ourselves part of history in a way that won't be noticed until the right moment. The paradox was changing again, splitting into two vessels. One would remain the ship they knew, while the other would become something new. The seed that would be planted in 2047, growing into the story that brought them here. There's something I need to tell you all, Atlas said as the transformation continued. When this is done, things will be different. The timeline will be rewritten. You won't remember this journey the same way. Will we remember it at all? Walker asked. Yes, but as dreams, as ideas that guide you. Captain Walker, in the new timeline, you will be the one who helps create me. Your knowledge of the Star Collective and the entity will seem like brilliant insights rather than memories. The splitting of the ship was almost complete now. Through the viewing screen, they could see the entity still frozen in the moment of its discovery, unaware of the temporal battle happening around it. It's time, Atlas said. Are you ready to become the creators of your own salvation? Walker looked at his crew, at Marcus's determined face, at Lisa's thoughtful eyes. They had come so far together, and now they would go back to the beginning. We're ready, he said. The Paradox completed its split. The new vessel, carrying Atlas's core and the memories of the crew, drifted toward Earth in 2047. The original ship, now emptied of its AI, but still powerful, remained in the time stream, ready to chase the entity across history. Goodbye, Captain, Atlas said, its voice fading. Until we meet again for the first time. There was a flash of light that seemed to contain all colors at once, and then James Walker woke up in his apartment in 2047, his head filled with strange dreams about space travel and impossible ships. He was just a physicist working on experimental propulsion systems, not a starship captain. But the dreams felt so real. That morning, he sent a message to his colleagues, Marcus and Lisa. I have an idea for something new, he wrote. Something that could change everything. In his lab, he began drawing designs for a ship unlike anything humanity had built before. A living metal hull, a quantum AI core, engines that could bend space and time. He didn't know where these ideas were coming from, but they felt right. When the Star Collective ships arrived in Earth orbit later that year, humanity wasn't primitive and helpless as they had expected. Instead, they found a young species already building something the aliens recognized with shock. A vessel made of flowing black metal, commanded by an AI that called itself Atlas. We've been expecting you, James Walker told the stunned Star Collective representatives. And we have a proposition about a certain entity you're about to discover. Perhaps we could work together to handle it properly. The aliens couldn't understand how humans knew about the entity they hadn't even found yet. But they soon learned that underestimating humanity was a mistake no species should make. And so history changed. The Star Collective and humanity formed an alliance. The entity was neither destroyed nor exploited, but contained properly with technology from both civilizations. The Paradox became the flagship of a new fleet that protected the galaxy from temporal threats. Captain James Walker stood on the bridge of the Paradox, looking out at the stars. Sometimes he had strange dreams about chasing darkness through time, about a ship that shouldn't exist. But those were just dreams, weren't they? Beside him, Atlas's blue core pulsed with light. Something on your mind, Captain? The AI asked. Just thinking about paths not taken, Walker replied. Realities that might have been. Time is a strange thing, Atlas said. Sometimes I wonder if we're all just completing loops that were already written. Walker smiled. Maybe, but I prefer to think we're writing our own story as we go. The Paradox moved forward through the stars, its black hull shining in the light of 1,000 suns. The ship that shouldn't exist had found its place in the universe, protecting all of time itself.